Polls.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And we thank you for being here, Barnaby.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're getting into something really specific, but the psychology behind it, I think it applies almost everywhere.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
We're not talking broad market trends. We're looking at these, well, very targeted psychological tactics aimed at one particular group, longtime mom and pop owners of mobile home parks, or MHPs,
Right.
and specifically how to persuade them to consider seller carry financing.
Exactly. And what makes this so interesting, I think, is that the source material we looked at, it's almost written like this satirical, maybe slightly cynical guide, but it shows this isn't just about finance. Not at all.
It's behavioral economics.
It's pure behavioral economics. You're trying to get past the emotional walls of people selling often their life's work. We're talking 30, maybe 40 years they've owned these places.
Wow. Yeah, that's a huge emotional investment.
Huge. So selling isn't just a transaction. It's like the end of an era for them. And that comes with a lot of emotional inertia, resistance.
And you can see why there'd be resistance. I mean, think about it. Managing tenants, fixing pipes, dealing with local councils for decades. Selling must bring up a ton of fear.
Oh, absolutely. Fear of getting cheated, fear of losing control, and this massive worry about, who takes over their community, their legacy.
So the best financial offer in the world might just bounce right off if you don't handle those feelings first.
Precisely. The sources basically lay out a roadmap for giving these sellers peace of mind. That's the real goal, not just hitting a number on a spreadsheet.
So the mission for us today is to figure out how these behavioral nudges, these specific tactics, are used to turn that deep-seated resistance into something else entirely, maybe even pride.
Exactly. Turning no way into, okay, tell me more.
Okay, let's unpack this.
So the first rule, the absolute bedrock, according to sources, is simple. Fear blocks logic. It just shuts it down.
Makes sense. If you're scared, you're not thinking rationally.
Not at all. A seller who's afraid or feels like they're being pushed, they'll retreat. They'll go for what feels like the safest port in the storm.
Which is usually just taking the cash and running.
Almost always. A clean, all-cash sale, even if mathematically it leaves money on the table. So the very first job is to calm that fear, that deep gut-level fear of being, taken advantage of after working so hard for so long.
Okay, so how do you start calming that fear? Where does the strategy begin?
It starts with a core concept from behavioral science, loss aversion.
Ah, right. The idea that we hate losing something we already have way more than we enjoy gaining something new, even if the gain is bigger.
Exactly. We're wired to avoid loss. And this is where the tactic gets clever. It flips the script.
How so?
Well, think about the seller. They're emotionally attached to the gross value of their park. Let's say it's worth $5 million in their head.
Okay.
If you offer them $5 million in cash, what's the immediate, unavoidable reality?
Taxes, capital gains.
Bingo. Suddenly, 30, maybe even 40% of that $5 million just vanishes. Poof. Gone to Uncle Sam right off the top.
So you frame the cash sale as the loss.
Yeah.
Not the gain.
Precisely. You don't lead with seller carry is great. You lead with, look, if you take all cash today, you immediately lose a massive chunk to taxes. That hits the loss aversion button hard. Then you present seller carry as the way to avoid that immediate loss. It lets them defer the taxes, keep that full amount of capital working for them, earning interest. Often a pretty good secured interest rate, too.
So the risk they might feel about financing the deal suddenly seems maybe less scary than the certain instant pain of that huge tax bill.
Exactly. You're changing the anchor point. It's not about the risk of financing anymore. It's about retaining the money they feel they've already earned.
That's psychologically very smart.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've maybe softened the initial fear of losing money. What's next? You need them to feel good about this path, right?
Right. You need to connect it to who they are, their identity. This is identity alignment.
Making it fit their self-image.
Yes. The analysis is clear. The persuasion has to validate their life's work. So you tailor the approach. If the seller sees themselves as, a tough, savvy business person who built this thing from nothing.
The sharp operator type.
Exactly. Then the pitch is about advancement. It's about status. You say things like, you're not just a landlord anymore. With seller financing, you graduate. You become the bank.
Ah, so you're appealing to their competence, their business acumen, elevating them.
You're validating their skills, but giving them a promotion. It plays right into that identity.
But what if they're not that type? What if they're more the community-minded owner, the ones who really cared about their tenants, the feel of the place, the legacy folks.
And the frame shifts completely. Forget being the bank. You appeal directly to their sense of stewardship.
Stewardship, like being a caretaker.
Precisely. The argument becomes, look, financing the sale lets you choose the right person to carry on this community. You ensure your residents are taken care of. It gives them control over the future.
That's powerful. It turns selling from just getting out into actively shaping what happens next, a curated handoff, not just an exit.
Exactly. It taps into that deep need to ensure their legacy is protected.
And the sources mention something about honoring their past work, too. Sunk cost protection.
Absolutely crucial. You have to acknowledge the decades of sweat equity. You can't just ignore it.
So you validate all that hard work.
Yes. You emphasize that seller carry means their life's work. That park they poured everything into keeps paying them a regular dividend long after they've stopped fixing leaky faucets.
It respects the grind they put in.
It totally does. It cements the idea that they aren't abandoning their park. They're just shifting how they profit from its legacy. They're monetizing the history.
Okay, so fear is calmed, ego is stroked, past work is honored. Now, what about that need for control and continuity? Especially for older owners, that seems huge.
It's central. This brings us to legacy framing. It's not just about the money. It's about peace of mind that the place won't be, trashed or turned into something unrecognizable by some faceless corporation.
They want to know it's in good hands.
Desperately. And seller carry gives them that control. They get to vet the buyer. They negotiate the terms. They essentially approve the future caretakers.
So it flips the script again. Letting go becomes guiding the transition.
Beautifully put. It transforms letting go, which feels passive and maybe sad, into curating the handoff, which feels active, dignified, and powerful. They're still the captain, just steering the ship into a safe harbor they chose.
And making that whole process feel less stressful is key too, right? The idea of cognitive ease.
Oh, absolutely. Complexity breeds anxiety. If the deal feels confusing or overwhelming, they'll just shut down again. Clarity builds comfort, simplicity sells.
Which is why that one line from the analysis just jumps out. It's so simple, so brilliant. Think of it like a pension monthly checks, 0 toilets.
Isn't that great? It works instantly because it draws this sharp, immediate contrast. Decades of hassle. The toilets, the tenants, the problems versus effortless income.
0 mental effort needed to grasp that benefit.
None. And that lack of mental strain just creates this wave of relief, of comfort. It feels easy, manageable.
But the sources are careful to say, look, logic and easy phrases, they aren't quite enough on their own. Numbers can feel cold. Stories connect.
Yes, story-based framing. This is vital. Stories bypass our natural skepticism in a way that spreadsheets just can't.
So you don't just show them the projected returns.
No, you tell them about Jane and Joe. You make it real. Jane and Joe down the road, they sold their park like this last year. Now they get a check every month, like clockwork. Funded their big trip to see the grandkids.
Making it relatable.
Human. And they sleep well, you add, because they handpicked that nice local family who bought it, the ones who promised to keep the rents fair for the folks living there. That specific, relatable story, infinitely more persuasive than abstract numbers.
Okay, that makes total sense. And then the sources say, once they're warming up to the idea internally, you gently bring in the social element, using tribal alignment and the liking principle.
Yeah, this is really interesting. You never want the seller to feel like they're some kind of guinea pig, the first one trying this weird financing thing.
Right. They need to feel like it's a normal, smart move.
Exactly. So you position seller carry as, the seasoned way to exit, the way the smart, experienced park owners do it. It makes them feel part of an exclusive club, the insiders who know how to retire right from this unique business.
Creating that sense of belonging to the smart money group.
Precisely. And nothing dissolves fear faster than seeing people like you, people in your own community, doing it successfully.
Local social proof.
That's the gold standard. Mentioning, hey, Joe down the street? Sold his park this way last year, says he loves getting the checks without the headaches. That kind of local validation is incredibly powerful, far more than some statistic from a national report. It just normalizes it instantly.
Okay, so you've normalized it, made it feel smart. Is there a final touch? The sources mentioned a pride appeal.
Yes, this is often the emotional closer, the final ego stroke, if you will.
How does that work?
You circle back to their achievement. You remind them, look, you didn't just own some land and buildings. You built a community here.
Acknowledging that deeper contribution.
Yes. And then you connect seller carry back to that legacy. This way, you stay connected to that accomplishment. You maintain that status as the community builder, just without the day-to-day grind. It reinforces their positive self-image, makes the decision feel like the earned reward for a lifetime of work, not just a transaction.
Okay, that builds a really strong positive case.
Yeah.
But inevitably, resistance comes back.
Right.
The fear must resurface. They'll say, okay, this sounds good, but what if it still feels risky?
Always. The big what if is default. What if the buyer stops paying?
Right. How do you tackle that head on without dismissing their fear?
The strategy isn't to minimize the risk. It's to reframe it completely using the built-in safeguards.
Okay, what are the key safeguards?
The sources highlight this brilliantly. The buyer's risk is actually the seller's leverage. You spell it out. Number one, the seller holds the mortgage, the lien on the property. They're in the driver's seat legally.
Okay.
Number two, if the buyer does default, what happens? The seller keeps everything they've received so far. That includes the initial down payment, often substantial, and every single monthly payment made up to that point.
All right, so they've got some cash already banked.
Exactly. And number three, they get the park back.
Ah, but wait. Getting the park back, isn't that the nightmare scenario? They just sold it to get rid of the management headaches?
That's the obvious reaction, and it's the crucial point you have to reframe. You don't present it as failure. You present it as backup ROI.
Backup ROI.
Think about it. The buyer, to get the deal and protect their own investment, likely put significant capital into improving the park right after buying it new roads, fixing utilities, maybe adding amenities, stuff the original owner might not have had the capital or energy for.
Okay, so the park might actually be in better shape.
Often, yes. So the reframe is, your worst case scenario isn't losing everything. It's that you keep all the money paid to date, and you get back an asset that's likely been improved, which you can then sell again, probably for cash, to the next buyer. It turns the perceived liability into potential upside. Leverage, not loss.
Wow, okay. That's a powerful reframing of the default risk.
Yeah.
That structural protection then lets you challenge the status quo bias, right?
Yeah.
The idea that just taking the cash is inherently safer.
Exactly. Once you've shown the seller carry structure is actually quite secure, you can gently turn the tables and suggest the all-cash sale might be the riskier move.
How do you make getting a pile of cash seem risky?
You ground it in today's reality.
Okay.
You get, say, $1 million cash after taxes. Now what? You've just handed yourself a brand new, high-stress job you never signed up for, managing that $1 million.
The reinvestment problem.
Huge problem. Inflation is eating away at cash. You put it in the stock market, bonds, real estate again. Suddenly you're worrying about market volatility, finding advisors, paying fees. It's a massive headache, especially in retirement. Compared to getting a guaranteed check every month at a potentially attractive locked-in interest rate with the tax hit deferred way down the road, suddenly the simple cash option looks like immediate tax pain plus ongoing management stress.
It flips the script on what simple and safe really mean in retirement.
Completely. The cash becomes tax bill plus inflation risk plus new job, while seller carry becomes guaranteed income plus tax deferral plus peace of mind.
This naturally leads into tackling what the sources call the big three objections that always come up. Let's run through them. First, the one we just hit. What if the buyer defaults?
The answer needs to be quick, clear, confident, backup ROI. You keep the down payment, you keep all monthly payments, and you regain an improved asset. Focus on the leverage, the security.
Okay. Objection number two. What if I need a lump sum of cash later? An emergency? Maybe? Am I stuck?
Answer, flexibility. That promissory note you hold, it's a financial asset. It's not just an IOU locked in a drawer.
So you can sell it.
You can sell it on the secondary market. You can borrow against it. You might be able to renegotiate with the buyer. The point is, you have options. You're not trapped. That fear of illiquidity is countered with concrete examples of flexibility.
Got it. And the third one, maybe the most fundamental. Why not just take the cash and be done with it all? I just want simplicity.
This one gets right to their core desire for rest, for freedom, so the counter has to honor that.
Oh.
You say, taking cash feels like being done, but it actually means a huge tax event now, and then the brand new job of managing that lump sum forever.
Right.
Seller carry means you are done, completely done with tenants, toilets, town hall meetings, but you are absolutely not done with the income. It separates the income stream they want from the hassles they hate. That's the true being done.
Decoupling income from effort. That's powerful.
Yeah.
Okay, lastly, the strategy was mentioned using something called ethical FOMO and gentle dissonance. Sounds a bit manipulative.
It could be, if misused. but the way it's presented is about highlighting genuine financial realities, not manufacturing panic.
Okay, explain the ethical FOMO part, fear of missing out.
It ties into current market conditions. You might genuinely say, look, interest rates are pretty high right now. You could potentially lock in a really solid 5%, 6% return on your own money, secured by the park you know inside out. That kind of opportunity might not be around next year if rates drop.
So it's a real time-sensitive financial point.
Exactly. It's not pressure, it's prudent financial information about a potentially closing window.
And the gentle dissonance.
This taps back into their identity. You might gently pose a question, maybe something like, you've always prided yourself on being a smart, careful operator, managing this place so well for decades. Doesn't ignoring a potentially safer, smarter income stream, doesn't that feel a little inconsistent with how you see yourself?
Creating that little bit of internal conflict, making them align their actions with their self-image.
It's subtle. It's not an accusation. It's a prompt for self-reflection. It encourages them to resolve that dissonance by choosing the option that confirms their identity as savvy and responsible, making the smart, long-term choice, not just the easiest, immediate one.
So, stepping back, looking at all these tactics together, what's the big picture takeaway here?
I think the core insight, drilling down through this very specific MHP analysis, is that when you're dealing with these high-stakes, highly emotional, legacy-type sales, persuasion isn't about pressure. It's not about arguing numbers.
It's about reassurance.
Deep reassurance. It's using empathy, sometimes a bit of humor, social proof, and these really specific behavioral triggers, loss aversion, identity alignment, cognitive ease, to transform that ingrained resistance into a feeling of, well, pride.
You're making the seller feel powerful in the decision, smart for choosing this path, and ultimately really safe.
Exactly. The final synthesis is that these techniques treat the seller's emotions, their fear, their ego, their desire for legacy as the primary negotiating points, sometimes even more important than the last dollar on the price.
It centers everything around the seller's comfort and control, making the whole exit feel less like a scary retirement and more like a well-deserved financial step up.
Yeah, promotion, almost.
There was a great line encapsulating this in the source material, the guiding philosophy.
Oh yes, simple but powerful. Alignment over argument every time.
Perfect.
So here's something to think about, maybe a final provocative thought for you listening. If these behavioral finance tactics, playing on identity, framing cash as a loss, giving control if they work so effectively in this very niche, high-stakes world of mobile home park sales, where else could they work? Where else in your own life, maybe your business, could applying a little loss aversion or thinking about identity alignment help shift a really difficult negotiation or change a decision that seems stuck? Something definitely worth considering as you navigate all the information out there.